That is a song called Brother of Mine, taken from a new album by a friend of, well, he's about to become an official friend of the show. He's been a mate of the show for a while, but officially a friend of the blokes today. His name is John Swan, better known to us all as Swanee. And if I've pressed the right buttons, good morning, Swanee.
Good morning, mate. How are you?
Good. You've got Neil here. You've already spoken to Rob. New album out. That's always a bit of fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a surprise because I didn't expect it to do as well as what it's doing, you know. I mean, this week it dropped down to number 2 in the Blues and Roots charts. It'll go back up because it's just, I can't believe that it's actually happening, you know.
Well, you say it's dropped down to number 2. That means there's only one other place it could have been. It's been number 1 already.
Yeah, I know. It'll go back up. The copies.
Well, after this it will.
John, the music industry has been kind to you people. I was just talking to you off air how good it is for you to be you've been kind in return. But last week, the great Russell Morris did a farewell thing, and he mentioned that during his career he's done some work that he's really loved and liked and was proud of, and hasn't really sold, and some other stuff sold. Are you getting to the stage now with what you produce at your age and time in the industry that there's a real quality that you as an individual almost demand of yourself to deliver if you're going to make new stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I'm like that with everything at this age. Before, it was just get it done, do it, you know, and as long as it was done. But now it has to be done to everything that I do, even just, you know, I'm out there doing the lawns and cleaning out the garage and doing all that stuff. And I've got to go back and start again today because it's not quite right, you know.
I tell you what, you don't want to be in Geelong today. You won't be mowing any lawns out there today.
Oh no, I've mowed a few lawns in Geelong, mate. Don't worry.
And good to see you giving your brothers a bit of a crack at that song as well. I think some of our listeners would have been familiar with one of your brothers, a guy called Jimmy, who's had a bit of press over the journey. And Alan, I didn't know anything about Alan, but the three of you having a warble there on a song called Brother of Mine?
Yeah, Alan's a great singer. He's a really good singer, but he's a brilliant songwriter. You know, Gadinsky signed him up a while back, but what he found was that the punters were picking him and saying, "Oh, he sounds like Jimmy Barnes." He said, "Well, of course he does." Funny. Of course he does. He's the youngest, and he was on the bottom bunk. There's 3 of us in the room, you know, like. And there was one little record player about a foot long, and you opened the lid up, and the speaker was in the lid.
Oh yeah.
Every music they heard, Jim and him, that was what it was, and they got to hear my music. But, you know, whatever I listened to, they heard.
So, what are the age differences between you and Jim and Alan?
Yeah. Alan's he's a special, really kind boy, you know, but he doesn't like to be compared. He just didn't want to play the game. He doesn't like the BS, you know.
Yeah.
If people can't just accept the fact that that's a good show, you know, because he still does shows, but he just doesn't go for the top end. I think he's still working his butt off on the cranes for the ships, you know, the big ships.
Okay.
About 200 feet on the air. Jesus Christ.
Better him than me.
Yeah, I put on a pair of R.M. Williams and I'm a bit shaky.
And good to see you giving your other brother a bit of a leg up as well. Jimmy might sell a few records off the back of that.
Well, the poor guy needs a hand, you know. Like, you got to get. I was just reading these posts for this morning. They're cooking loaves of bread with the kids and that, you know. Like, and he lives a good life. He's getting to that point now where he's so orientated with the grandkids, you know.
Yes, I follow him on Facebook, or maybe I don't follow him, but he pops up a lot, and it's always everything he's doing for the grandkids, which is great to see. Now, this album of yours is called Believe, and well, you've brought in a few mates to help you along the way, not just Alan and Jim, but a few other mates.
Yeah, well, see, it started off. I was lying there thinking about. I was watching the Matulas on TV playing soccer. And I was lying there thinking, what have I got left to do? What's, you know, apart from electrical work under the house, not
Mowing the lawns.
mowing the lawns. But you need to have the reason to get up and do something. So I usually get up and just practice my guitar. So I started playing a few of the songs. I thought, you know what, before I release this Mortal Coil, I'd really like to record with Alan and Jim. That was the driving force for this album. But when I made a paragraph up and I sent it to Jim and Alan, and they immediately just text back and said, "Yeah, let's do it." So that's great. And I was thinking, well, why don't I do an album and get my mates to do it? So I sent the same text to 14 other people. And normally it takes about 2 weeks for them to get back to you.
Yep.
They just, they were wonderful. Immediately, bang, 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 my phone starts going. And some of it was from Peru. Colin Hay was over in Peru doing gigs for like 100,000 people. And he came off stage and his tour manager said, "Great, Colin, what do you want to do now?" And he said, "Book a studio." He said, "Yeah, sure. When for?" He said, "No." And he had the vocals done that night after his gig. He went into the studio, and by 8 o'clock the next morning, I had his vocal here, and he gave me 3 lead vocals and harmonies for 2 tracks. And it's like that's mates. They're
I was going to ask you about, you talked before about being control of the quality. So when those texts were sent out, were you pretty sure that you were going to get not only the talent coming back to support you, but also the desire to do it really well?
Well, they're all the same type of characters. Jack Jones is Joe Cavalieri. He's a master of getting things right. It's so. For him, it's so important, he's always been that fastidious. But, it's more than that. It's these guys are part of your life. They're almost brothers, because we grew up together. None of us had any money. Those who didn't have gear would borrow off each other, or we'd use their amp if we were supporting them, So, and that goes back to... I was doing it when I was 13 with Lynn Rundell, and she had Chow Baby as a #1 single. So at the age of 14-year-old, you're playing with a girl that's got a #1 single. You pick up some pretty good stuff, because the bands that were around were Max Merritt, Twilights, Axiom, all of that sort of stuff. And it's hard if you're not picking up stuff that's good on the way, then you're not paying attention to anything. The road ahead of you is sort of like, it's not good looking back. You've got to look forward.
Well, I've got the list of artists in front of me, Rob. Alan Barnes, we've already spoken about him. He's well known to us now. John Stevens of Noiseworks. Melinda Schneider.
Yep.
Melinda, of course, the absolute superstar of country music. She's going to be singing with you in about 14 minutes, if all things go according to plan. I press the right buttons again. Colin Hay from Men at Work, Diesel, Joe Camilleri, Wendy Matthews. This guy, he's an up-and-coming young fellow, a guy called Russell Morris. He goes all right.
Yeah. Oh, look, he's just a beautiful guy.
Isn't he, though?
We've been mates back, I think it was Somebody's Image was his band back in the day.
Yeah, mid-60s, yeah. Dave Gleason, he's Screaming Jets, I think, isn't he? Rick Springfield, Jack Jones from Southern Sons, a fella called Ian Moss. I think he had a crack with the band at one stage.
Up-and-coming guitar player.
Yeah. Kevin Borich and Mahalia Barnes. Nothing like keeping in the family there as well.
Yeah, well, Jackie's on the album, and Ruby's on the album. Mahalia, her husband's on the album. Her daughter's on the album, and Jackie plays drums. So it's a sort of, it wasn't a matter of trying to get, they're all the best that I could get. I didn't want to just go out and get the best because it was, they're such a great singer. I mean, I love Renee Gayer, but today, Mahalia is today's Renee Gayer. She's just the hardest working girl. Plus she manages and tour manages Jim.
Yes, I'll keep her busy.
All of that superstar and, all that. So it never stops working.
Yeah, and I guess, it also means that you're obviously held in high regard by all of these absolute superstars of Australian music, because otherwise they go, no, I'm not going to play. So that's also a bit of a tribute to your work.
Yeah, but I mean, if any one of us, it's a bit like in the army. You get brothers. You go out with a certain job, and you become a team. Well, we were always a team. All of those guys, we've always been connected. We do cruises and stuff like that together for P&O lines. So it's, there's a young guy down at Geelong, Tim Hangman. Do you know him?
No.
Road Traders. He plays guitar with John Stevens. He's absolutely wonderful voice. And he did some of the work in his studio down there. They finished a gig. They went down there, did the track for me, and sent it back.
John, do you give us a word, if you can, to describe the feeling of doing this stuff still with your friends at a very high level? But the fact is, at your age and length of time in the industry, that you're still relevant. What does that mean to you?
I don't know, because relevant, you have to be present and in the moment, or you become irrelevant. Like if you're not if I'm not doing things at the level that I expect other people to do it at, then, I shouldn't be doing it. And the minute it drops down below that level, it will stop. That's all there is to it. I'll find something else. I might take up boxing again.
So
mowing lawns.
So do you still work hard and produce quality for an inner desire to be relevant, or is it just the motivation is I just enjoy what I do?
I woke up this morning and I sort of staggered out into my studio and put the kettle on, and I picked up my guitar and I sat there. And about 3 hours later, I just learnt the Sting song, and it was like, it's something. It takes me to a good place in life, If people meditate in the morning and they do all this sort of stuff, I just get up and play music. And it's not a matter of playing it to listen to it or playing it to become better, but it's because I really enjoy the challenge. Tommy put it to me one time, because he's never got a guitar out of his hand. That's why he's Tommy Emanuel. He's on the album too.
Okay. Rob and I are now starting to feel quite disappointed that we are the only people in Australia who didn't get invited to be on the album.
It's just that you checked the mail.
Yeah, like all those wedding invitations, people go, "Oh no, I sent it. I'm sure I sent that too." So the other thing too, John, that goes past a lot of people. Whenever I have someone that we're really looking forward to talking to, as we were with you, is I tell people at work, I tell people everywhere that this is what we're doing on Saturday, and it's funny how people respond, right? When I say, I'm talking to this person, and I said I'm talking to John Swan, and three things came out commonly. First of all, lady, what's your name? That's generally the first thing that people say. Secondly, what an incredible voice and incredible musician he is and was and has been. And then what an incredibly nice man he is. People who I've met who know of you or have met you, your generosity of spirit, the fact that you're awarded an Australian of the Year award because of the work you do in the community, it's just an absolute tribute. And if people are still going out and buying your CDs and putting them on, they're putting you at number one, what a great position to find yourself.
Well, yeah, it's not hard to be a good bloke,
We're trying.
That's what you guys do, that's why when I first heard the name of the show, I just loved it, it was just fantastic, because it's really easy to be condescending and sort of like, if you're driven by goals, like my gold albums and stuff like that, they'll be gone to probably great grandkids or something like that, or my sister will have them. Whoever wants them can have them. It's just they're things that you strive towards, but when you've got them, you need to strive towards other things, because otherwise you're sitting there basking in your own glory. What a hellhole that would be,
And I guess we often hear the story, when people, executives, high-powered executives retire and then drop dead 2 years later because they've suddenly got no reason to get out of bed in the morning, and no reason to keep driving.
Yeah, I'm sort of guys eternally grateful just to be here, never mind be successful, so the smallest things I'm grateful for, because I've had such a hard time with alcohol and drugs in the earlier part. It was 25 years ago I gave up drugs, cigarettes and alcohol all at one time, bang, just dropped it.
You must have been a fun bloke to be around for a couple of days.
Oh, jeez, that was I think it was about 18 months to get out of the system,
Wow.
Really out your system, because I don't trust myself. I know me. I was the type of person who couldn't stop at one of anything, so I'm a bit like that with music,
So reflecting on the fact that you've got the royalty of Australian music performing with you on this particular CD, let's play a fantasy game. You could name any artist that you didn't invite, in case you name, I asked that one, they said no. Anyone that you could invite to do a track on the album, if you were bringing out an extended version of the album, who would it be?
Look, there's many good artists in Australia, and a lot of them aren't as well known as these guys that I've got there. Guys are well known because they've been around as long as what I have, and we've all slept on each other's couch, gone out with each other's girlfriends and stuff like that, But there's a lot of young kids out there. There's a band called the Wanderers, who are a bit like the Tedeschi brothers, that young Australian bands. They're sensational. They just finished the Fringe in Edinburgh, and they were over there for a month. And every day I was following their feed coming back, and they blew it out of the water. So it would be, if I did it again, it would be probably with people who haven't got what they deserve yet.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that to sound, like I said, condescending. I mean that they're actually that good now. That people don't know about them. People overseas know about them because they tour through there. What they do today, young guys, they can't get work here because everybody it's cover bands or Jimmy. So it's makes it hard for those young guys to come up. In our day, we were doing 2 and 3 gigs a day. So, and I don't mean that in our day.
Well, there's a young fellow I saw on Wednesday night performing at Hamer Hall. He did 3 shows in 24 hours. A guy called Russell Morris.
I know.
He's a nutcase.
Oh, he's one of the sweetest men that you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for Russell. And like the other guys, we used to all meet up in the Qantas lounge because we'd be heading off in all different directions, or Virgin or whatever it is. And we'd be sitting there, the boys are having a drink, and we're having a cup of tea, and Russell and I would go away and sit at another table, and we'd be talking about boxing, because he's a mad boxing fan, and he knows more about boxing than me, and that's saying something. And I tell you, everybody looks at us and goes, couple of weirdos. We're a couple of weirdos because we're talking about boxing. They're talking about cars. Hello.
John, you may have touched on it already just before, but although you spend a lot of time with your ilk and your era, have you become a bit of a role model mentor? It sounds like you have, based on your previous commentary about the younger ones that aren't getting the spotlight they deserve.
Yeah, I teach kids at the moment. I teach autistic kids. I've got an autistic foundation, and I teach those kids. I go to palliative care. I go to the kids wards, the brain injury wards, and stuff like that. And you find young musicians who are in positions when life is threatening, and they're really down. Stick a guitar in their hand, and they can play 2 chords. So you go back a few days a week, and you teach them a few more chords. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take much. And if everybody did a little bit of that, we'd get a lot done. Society would be different,
It's a good point. Last night we interviewed at the function. We're at young ladies involved in a group helping youngsters with autism and other disabilities and using art to help express. And you're in the music field, but do you think the arts, for a period, it certainly was undersold in the country? Do you sense it's back where it should be?
Yeah. Well, don't forget, in the day, we were paying so much tax that these politicians forget that, because they've never had a job. They're just straight from school and they get into politics, and, they don't read. They've lost contact with everyday people. And in order to be able to have an opinion, you have to have lived what they're doing, and that's why I can relate to people who, like my fondest memories of growing up in a housing trust home with 6, brothers and sisters, and separated. My mum and dad separated. I was molested. There's all the things in life that happens to those kids out there have happened to us. So we have empathy towards them. The government doesn't. They try and throw money at it. They don't fix nothing. They haven't. Don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
Because they're really just, they don't care about us. We're just numbers. And they're bringing in more people than we ever thought about,
So I think finding a purpose in young people is such a powerful thing, and music is one of the many ways, where sport's probably the highest profile one, but there's so many forms of the arts that I sense are coming back, and it's probably fellows like yourself that are leading the charge to show the advantage of empowering a youngster who has issues finding their talent.
Yeah, I'll give you the example. At 73, I'm walking through Cross Harbour, and there were some guys, and there's a lady who was breastfeeding. She was just sitting there, young kid, 25, something like that, And these eggheads, these two guys, because there's a fair load of homeless people just hang around the shopping centre, And they was making all of these things, what they were going to do to this girl, blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, you can't get away with that, boys. Pull your heads in, And they challenged me, and I dropped them both. Because it's not that. They may put that girl off breastfeeding her baby anywhere she wants to, And there's old women there on pensions. I'm old, but I'm totally different. I'm built. If you upset me, I will bring you down.
Those Russell Morris boxing lessons were helpful, Johnny.
Well, I was Australian champion, the South Australian champion.
Oh, that's right. Of course, yes, you were. Yeah.
Yeah.
Swanee, we've got to get going, sadly. It's always great to have a chat. We have a rule on this radio show that once you've been on the show twice, you become an official friend of the blokes. So you've stepped into a whole new realm today.
Friend of the bloke. That's a. See, that will go up there.
Put that in the pool room, Swanee.
Yeah.
If people want to buy this exceptionally good album, I know they can buy it from some rather large retailers, but we don't like large retailers. We prefer it. Can people go to your website, or can people go to Songland website and buy it from there?
Or you know where to get it? johnswan.net.au.
There you go, johnswan.net.au, and there's only one N in Swan, not two.
Yes. Yeah.
Swanee, thank you so much for your time this morning, and for being who you are, and for being a friend of the blokes. We're going to get you warbling a song with Melinda Schneider, which is the single off the album, if I'm not wrong.
It is at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. All power to you, young man, and we will talk to you in the future as a friend of the blokes.
Best wishes, John. Really appreciate your time.
See you, Sprig.
Thanks, Swanee.
Thanks, mate.
See ya.